Hello guys and welcome to another Hellfire Citadel Mythic Guide by Method. Today we're talking about Kilrogg Deadeye, the 5th boss of the instance, and with me as always I have Josway.
Good day, everyone.
Now Kilrogg is not particularly hard as a boss, but I think it's one of the most fun bosses, at least for a few people that end up going into the inside phase, which we'll get into later. But in general you should have no trouble killing this boss and get some free loot.
Yeah, Kilrogg is quite a bit easier than the council boss you just killed to get here. So you're only going to need 2 tanks, 5 healers, and 13 DPS this time. You can do it with 5 or 4 healers, but we recommend 5 healing it, as 4 healing it is not needed, as the DPS requirements are not that high this time.
Yeah, the reason why the DPS requirements are not that high in this fight is because of the Vision of Death. When the boss casts that ability and there are 3 people from the raid going inside in a room, killing some adds, when they come outside, they have a huge damage buff that makes killing all the adds and basically controlling the fight way easier.
The Kilrogg fight does not have many differences from heroic or normal difficulty. There's a couple of changes in the abilities. First of all, there's Fell Corruption. In heroic and normal, the amount of Fell Corruption you have decays over time. This does not happen in Mythic, so you're gonna need your healers that come up from the Vision of Death to reduce the Fell Corruption on the raid. When Fell Corruption reaches 100, you're going to be mind controlled and the raid will have to kill you. Secondly, there's the Heartseeker debuff. That's a bleed that you get after getting hit by the arrow. This will be permanent until you go inside and remove it that way. And lastly, Death Throes applies Fell Corruption, so it's especially important that the healer reduces the Fell Corruption on the raid with their aura or circle when they come up from the Vision of Death. As for the other abilities, they're mostly the same as in heroic. First of all, there's Shred Armor. Any tank that's tanking Kilrogg needs to have their active mitigation up to prevent the debuff from being applied. If you fail to have your active mitigation up, you're going to take increasing damage and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, if that happens, you basically need to use one of your personal cooldowns to survive the damages. Then you have the Hardseeker, which is the point the arrow, targets one random ranged player, and at least with the positioning that we had, as you can see, the guy who gets that debuff moves all the way to the entrance as far away as possible to spawn the glob as far away from the boss as possible, because the glob is going to start moving towards the boss, and if it reaches the boss, it's basically a wipe. The boss will heal, it will explode, and probably kill a few people. So yeah, it's really crucial that you spawn them as far away as possible and have some assigned ranged DPSers killing them. Now the other mechanic of Heartseeker, which you don't really care as much in heroic, but it's actually an issue in Mythic, is the blood splatter. And that's just a small pool, a small red pool that spawns at the location where the ranged player is getting hit by the Heartseeker, and it's gonna stay there for the rest of the fight. That is the reason why you want to start spawning those globs as far away as possible, so that you don't limit yourself for the people who get the Heartseeker later on in the fight. You want to start as far away as possible and work your way towards the boss later on. The extra thing in Mythic with Heartseekers is that when the boss hits 50%, instead of throwing 1 Heartseeker, he's going to start throwing 2 Heartseekers. And then later on in the fight, he's even going to do 3. So as you can tell, that's basically a softened range from the boss. That's why you need to have some good room management and good DPS on those globs.
Yeah, because you're going to get more blood globs later in the fight, we recommend using Bloodlust sub 50%, somewhere after a group of people just came out of Vision of Death to maximize their damage output. The next ability is Death Throes, and just like in heroic, he's going to spin around, deal damage to people close in melee range, and throw projectiles at the ranged camp. Now the Mythic difference for Death Throes is that it's going to apply Fell Corruption to the raid. So if you do not reduce your Fell Corruption in some way, eventually you're going to hit 100.
Yeah, it's very crucial that you actually dodge all of those projectiles as ranged players, because so many people are going to have the Heartseeker debuffs, and your healers are basically never going to catch up with having everyone topped in the raid. That's why you 100% need to avoid all those projectiles. If you get hit by one, you're probably dead. Now moving on to the Vision of Death, which is the main mechanic of this fight, it's very important that you have predetermined groups of who is going inside. You can adjust a little bit depending on who gets the Heartseeker debuffs, because as we mentioned, if you have a Heartseeker debuff and you go inside with the Vision of Death, the debuff gets removed. So you can maybe adjust and have an extra person go in, but you have to pick some classes who are gonna excel inside. For example, Death Knights can go inside, pop Army of the Dead, and basically kill so many adds that you're gonna max out on the stacks. The way it works inside is that you get Hellblaze Imps, Hellblaze Fiends, and Hellblaze Mistresses. And basically it's just an AoE fest. You need to kill all of them, get stacks, increase your damage, and then go out.
The only thing worth noting inside is that the Hellblaze Fiends blow up when they die. So for any melee DPS or any range that's standing close to them, if there's only ranged inside, you want to move away from them as they are about to die. Now while you're inside, you're going to get 1 stack of damage or healing increase for each enemy that you slay. But these stacks cap out at 20 stacks. So once you've gotten to 20 stacks, you want to let yourself die by either letting an imp cast or standing next to a Hellblaze Fiend as they're dying. Because as soon as you die, you get ported back outside and you lose all your Fel Corruption. And a healer will get a nice yellow bright circle around them that's going to reduce the Fel Corruption on the raid.
Now, the very last thing about this encounter are the salivating bloodthirsters. Just like the trash before the boss, it's just a bunch of orcs who want to drink some blood and then become hulking terrors. Now, as soon as those ads start spawning, there's always going to be one who instantly transforms into a hulking terror. And your tanks need to pick that up and kill it while interrupting his casts. Now, you're going to get some more of those salivating bloodthirsters who are not going to instantly transform to hulking terrors, and they're going to spawn near the entrance of the room, and they're going to start moving towards the blood in order to drink it and become the hulking terrors. You cannot allow that to happen. You need to kill them before they reach there, and a good way to handle them is to use your Death Knights, grip them on top of the boss and clip them down as fast as possible, and you can also slow them as soon as they spawn. The bad thing about them is that you cannot stun them, so make sure that you start DPSing them as soon as they spawn, dot them up, grip them, kill them, easy.
Now to come back to the Hulking Terrors, their rending howl cannot be interrupted by just a tank, and you need a 3-person rotation to properly and safely interrupt it. They'll also still be casting Savage Strikes just like in Heroic, the frontal conal cleave that will be casted once they reach 100 energy, and they'll also still blow up with Fel Rupture, which applies Fel Corruption and deals damage around them when they die.
Now the difference in Mythic is that when these hulking terrors die, they also leave a fel puddle on the ground. It's just a green pool of blood that some of your players need to go and soak it. What will happen if you don't soak it is that a fel blob is going to spawn, just like the ones from the Heartseekers, and it's going to start moving towards the boss. And because you're probably going to be tanking those hulking terrors close to the boss, it's going to be really hard to actually kill it before it reaches the boss, or there's definitely going to be some panic. Basically, you should always soak these fel puddles. The problem is that one person is not enough. You need at least 2 people to go and soak that puddle. And ideally, you want the people who are gonna go inside with the next vision of deaths to go and soak it, because you're also gonna increase your fel corruption while soaking that puddle. So the people who are going inside with the vision of death are the perfect candidates, because they're gonna lose all of their fel corruption as soon as they go inside. And that's basically the whole fight. Quick reminder of what needs to be done in this fight. Keep the boss basically stationary for the whole fight, and then people spread towards the entrance a little bit on the right and the left. You keep a corridor in the middle, like a straight line from the boss towards the entrance, because that's where the Heartseekers are going to be going towards. And then all your ranged DPS need to be killing the salivating bloodthirsters and the blobs that spawn, especially the blobs, because if they reach the boss, it's 100% a wipe. And then the other very important thing is kill the hulking terrors and soak their blood pools before it's too late. And also the vision of deaths, you want to have the proper people going inside, either because of their fel corruption or because they are good classes inside. And also make sure to have a set order of who goes on the first circle, the second and the third. You don't want to have a mix-up where 3 people all go for the same circle of the visions, because if one of the circles is not soaked, it's going to explode, no one is going to go inside, and again, it's basically a wipe.
Now to add to that, there's a couple of tips and tricks for the fight. First off, you should tank swap the first 2 Hulking Terrors. The Hulking Terrors apply Fel Corruption, and because no one has been down yet in the Vision of Death, there's no healer to reduce the Fel Corruption on the first tank of the Hulking Terrors.
And now another nifty trick, which you should definitely use, is that you can actually remove the Hardseeker debuffs. As we mentioned, they don't have a duration, they stay for the rest of the fight, and that's a lot of damage that needs to be healed. So removing them is actually going to help your healers a lot. The way you can do that is by either using Ice Block or Paladins using their Bubble, but you can also give Hand of Protections to other people. Because it's a physical debuff, it gets removed.
Now this fight has a couple of debuffs you want to keep track of. Everyone wants to keep track of Heartseeker. This is both the target debuff once you're targeted with the arrow and the bleed debuff you get afterwards when you're hit by Heartseeker itself. There's also 2 more debuffs you want to keep track of if you're assigned to Visions of Death. For the DPS, this is Undying Resolve, which increases your damage done, and for the healers, this is Undying Salvation, which increases their healing done. Now once you've got 20 stacks of these, you want to die inside, so you go outside as soon as possible and maximize your DPS. Now once you leave the Vision of Death, you're going to be afflicted by Defying Death. This debuff will prevent you from entering the Visions of Death for another 5 minutes until this debuff fades, so you cannot enter again for the whole fight because the fight is not long enough.
And that's it for Kilrogg Deadeye. We hope that you kill him pretty fast and don't wipe too much.
We hope this gave you a good vision of Kilrogg's death, and remember to like, comment and subscribe for future guides of Hellfire Citadel.
Good luck, guys.